Alright, MA140G. Here's the homework problem that I've asked you to use a spreadsheet to perform some finite differencing analyses on this particular function. What I'm going to do in this screencast is I'm going to use some more advanced Excel techniques to show you a better, more flexible way to implement this in Excel. I'm also going to show you how to use WebApps and PassSpace if you do not have a copy of Microsoft Excel on your personal computer and you would like to use that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to a browser, and here's the web address. If you go to explorer.pass.psu.edu, you supply your credentials and log in, it will take you to your PassSpace. This is a web interface to your PassSpace. There are other ways to access it, SFTP, etc. Everyone gets at least 2 gigabytes. You have the option to expand it. When you log in, you will see a structure like this, directory structure. I have uploaded into my documents of my PassSpace this week's homework template that I downloaded from Angel. So this PassSpace is what is going to be your directory whenever you use anything in WebApps. What I will do now is I will navigate to WebApps, webapps.psu.edu, and you have these software options. Doesn't matter which version of Office you use. I don't know why they give you 2 versions, I guess for compatibility. And you can navigate to anything in Microsoft Office. We use Excel, and what we're doing is we're logging into a remote desktop session on a server. You'll be asked to log in. Open it. Normally you'll just see a blank workbook when you log on. But here's my documents. And you should be able to navigate down and open up the template. Again, that's all pulled from your PassSpace. And when you go to save this, it will save it back in your PassSpace. So this is a way you can proceed without actually having a copy of Microsoft Excel on your computer. Simply use WebApps. I'm going to proceed with a local copy of Excel. I'm working off campus, so it's much faster. Okay, so here we are back at the spreadsheet. I'm going to set this up in a little bit more high-powered way. For those of you who are experienced in Excel, this will give you a little bit better insight into some slightly more advanced commands. Nothing over the top just yet. So I'm going to build my function table, and I want the function table to follow the rules of my domain. So I'm going to move relatively quickly, but I will narrate what I'm doing. So let's start with just putting the initial value of my domain in. And then we will also follow through with how we set up the basic spreadsheet. And so I'm going to just add that. I'm going to absolute just the row. And I go ahead and enter this, and it's going to set this up just like the basic spreadsheet. But what I want to do is I want to put in an if-then conditional. So what I'm going to say is, if the output, the previous cell plus the increment, is less than the upper domain boundary, then make this the output. Else, nothing. So this is a command in Excel that simply lets it be not a number. Excel simply will not recognize or process the output if you use that. And so we have this situation here. So if this is less than that, then output that addition. Otherwise, generate NA. And I want to drag this down instead of the wimpy 30 or 90 rows that we did earlier. I'd like to drag this down, say 500. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate down to A500, and I'm going to put in anything. It's completely irrelevant what I put in. I'm going to press Control up. It's going to take me back up to the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this cell and copy it. Control C. Then I'm going to go down to this cell, and I'm going to press Control Shift down. It's going to fill in that entire range, and I'm going to press Control V. This is a way to fill in exactly a large number of rows. Let's say you want 1,000 rows or 10,000 rows. This method will let you do that as opposed to manually dragging this down, right? So as we zoom out, we can see that this filled right to about there. And everything after that gets NA. So Excel won't process this. You see I actually have a very minor mistake in my formula, and this will be a good fix. Instead of less than, I need that to be less than or equal to. So I made a mistake. I will simply double click the key, and what it does is it propagates all of this down automatically. You can see that the less than or equal to is now in all of the cells, and I should have exactly 4 now. So what I can do is if I change this to -1, my domain will now only be represented from -5 to -1. And I can go ahead and change this to 0.25 and 0.5, and I have something that's more flexible, as you can see. So I'll set this back to what the assignment requests. I think we wanted to start with 1/4. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter in this. It's going to no need to drag or anything, just double click. It will fill in the entire row, the whole way down to 500. It gives me my NAs where I want them. When I look at my plot, there's my plot. And I'm going to just adjust my axis here real quick. So we see a nice bend, and I want my axis to go from my domain. Currently that's fixed. Let me make that auto. And so that way if I do change my domain, the plot will scale. Okay. I'm going to do my backwards differencing just like I did before. Notice I started my center one down. The endpoints do not get used in a center difference. The first point does not get used in a backwards difference. And the last point does not get used in a forwards difference. If I go down, you see that that's automatically skipped for me. So the data looks good at a glance. The plots are showing up nicely. And this setup here is just a little bit more flexible. It allows me to change my domain. Going from 2 to 10. You see the plots are following. It's trying to scale with the huge values that are on the Y. And I can also set this to very small values if I choose to. And all of the data should have enough room to do reasonably small values. Should be. You look at the difference between my center backwards and forwards when I let the delta t become really small. Oh, looks like I ran out of room. A little more room. See, there's very effectively the same at this point. You look at the differences across here. There's not a lot of difference. Okay, I'm going to just complete the last center difference. Oh, you see the problem? I forgot to... You can always go back and just put the cursor after the cell reference, and then press F4 and it will put that $sign in for you. Or you can always manually type it in. You see what that absolute reference did not do. Now I can drag this out, get my values. And this should be offset by 2. Okay, everything looks squared away. I'm going to show you one last trick. It's kind of fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my developer tab. You may have to go to your options and add this, but under your developer tab you can insert graphical objects. And I'm going to insert a scroll bar. I don't want a vertical scroll bar, so you drag it across itself like this, and you get a horizontal one. When you format the scroll bar, you have a minimum and a maximum and an increment change and a cell link. I'm going to select that cell so that you can see when I change this scroll bar, it increments that cell. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and modify my increment now. And I'm going to say, let this be equal to, since this goes from 0 to 100, let's do hundredths. No need for absolute cell references or anything. Now you see what's happening here is when I use the scroll bar, I can do my limits. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this plot so that we can see it in real time. We don't need to look at this data necessarily. Just going to shrink it a little bit. And when I move this, you guys have a bigger screen, but when I move this, you can watch how the plot will change. You can see the backwards, forwards, and center differencing becoming further apart. And when I move it down like this, you see how they get close together. So this gives you sort of a graphical way to change the values. It's just sort of a fun add-in, and you can control any sort of function with things like this. Okay, that's the end of this. Good luck.